Assalamu alaikum. Good evening, good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. This is my first visit to Wisconsin, and it's absolutely an honor and pleasure to be on a campus which I heard so much, especially one of the famous Turkish professors, Mehmet Karpat. I don't know if you know him, who's been here for how many years? I don't know. He's been a big admirer. I've been a big admirer of him. Good to be here. The kind introduction reveals two important information about me. One, like some of our guests, some of our hosts here, I'm a Turkish delight. And I'm hoping my Turkish accent will not give you any difficulty in understanding it. Combined with my sore throat, it could be a cause problem. My Turkish accent is a source of humor often with my children at home and on campus as well. The funniest one, I will just start with that one. When I first took my daughter to register to elementary school, I just didn't want to bother the school with Islamic dietary restrictions. I thought being Muslim is scary enough, why to rub it? I told the principal that my daughter is supposed to be vegetarian at school, so no pork at all, no chicken, no beef, no red meat, don't serve her any kind of meat. And when I said no red meat, the poor principal turned into blue and green and said, "Who do you think we are? Nobody eats rat meat?" And I said, oh my goodness, not R-A-T, R-E-D, red meat. So if I say anything sounds painfully wrong, check the spelling before you jump into a conclusion. The second important information about me is I'm a Blue Devil Imam, as people call me. For those who do not know, the mascot of the Duke University is Blue Devil. Nobody watches basketball on this campus? It's been a long day. I take pride in people calling me Blue Devil Imam. That's the title of my calling. Anybody who knows anything about Islamic theology, you would understand how problematic this term is. But we are the only Muslim community on the face of earth who are allowed to pray for the devils. After our Friday prayer, the 120 Muslim Blue Devils, we pray for the success of the Blue Devils. And it's working. It's a wonderful season. We made it to quarterfinals. Let's start the whole conversation. There's a list of questions. And I have been offered a very easy task before answering and honoring your questions to summarize the whole business of Islam and Muslims in 5 minutes. And as anybody can summarize the whole business of Christianity and Christians in 5 minutes, and Judaism and Jews in 5 minutes, I'll do my best in this piece of cake task. What I want to briefly open up as a conversation is, for any faith tradition, for any world religion, one of the very first things needs to be said is, there is no one Islam. There is no one, as there is no one Christianity, as there is no one Judaism, Buddhism, and Hinduism. There are so many Christianities, and Judaisms and Buddhisms, and there are so many Islams as well. We will not be able to cover all different manifestations of Islam, but I'm inviting you to receive these questions and my answers in 4 major categories. And a basic minimum understanding and appreciation of Islam should mean making distinctions between these 4 major categories that we're going to talk about. So there are 4 Islams which I'm hoping through these questions we will hold in conversation with. The first Islam is Islam as religion, Islam as belief system, Islam as theology, Islam as it's explained in its foundational text, Islam as it's been revealed in its doctrines, in its theology. What do you take on? What makes somebody Muslim? The second Islam, how does the first Islam manifest itself in the human experience? How does belief of Islam, religion of Islam, theology of Islam manifests itself in the human experience? So the second Islam is Islam as Muslims, people. And when you talk about Islam as Muslims and people, we're talking about 1.7 billion people on the face of earth. I know, way too many.
No.
The second,
no way.
I can make that joke, you can't. I can get away with that kind of, yeah. 1.7 billion people. Imagine any kind of skin color, any kind of linguistic background, cultural background, there are Muslims out there. A friend of mine here from China who's studying Chinese Muslims. I don't know how many Americans today, average American knows, there is 120 million Chinese Muslims. We're not talking about Xinjiangese and Uyghur ethnic Turkish groups in China. These are as Chinese as an apple pie. Well, you understand what I mean. They are Chinese Muslims. They've been Chinese Muslims for more than 1,000 years. Indonesian Muslims, African Muslims, Pakistani Muslims. We told there's a mosque on this campus. For those who are not Muslim, I highly encourage you to check the Jummah prayer, the weekly worship service in the United States. Often, American Muslim community reflects the entire sectarian, linguistic, cultural, theological differences of 1.7 billion people. So the second Islam, which I'm hoping we will talk a lot, is the Islam as people, Islam as culture, Islam as a living reality in the Muslim world. The third Islam is Islam as history, which is one of the trickiest categories. You will not understand the first Islam, Islam as religion of today, and the second Islam, Islam as Muslims of today, unless you know what kind of history gave birth to the present day situation. What kind of historical civilizational rise and declines and collapses Muslims have gone through for the last 1400 years. The fourth Islam is the most popular Islam, and that's my own characterization, and that's why we are having this conversation. That's why Duke University hired me, unfortunately, is Islam as a scary beast, Islam as monster, Islam as this new international enemy to the Western civilization, a reality which has been cooked up in the last 20 years, intensified after 9/11. This image, the perception, which brings fear to people, it's a source of fear and source of anxiety, especially what happened in Boston. It took another manifestation of what's going on, that we have a boogeyman, pretty much like the communists in 1960s and 70s and 80s. For those who are a little bit older than me would remember, this wasn't around in 1960s and 70s. It was a different boogeyman. So we have to talk about this fourth Islam as well. If you don't ask, I will talk about it. The jihad, terror, Osama bin Laden, Al-Qaeda, Hezbollah, Hamas, whatever. You will have to try to make sense of it. But let's try to make sense of it within these four major categories. When we talk about a reality, is it within the religion of Islam? Is it within the people, Muslims? And how did that play out in history? And how are we talking about this in the last 20 years or 12 years after 9/11? Because we have a whole different lenses and a whole different vocabulary when we talk about anything related to Islam and Muslims in the last 12, 13 years. Did I do a good job explaining Islam in 5 minutes? Yay.